Okay guys, this video has been a doozy. I have pulled out so much stuff and made stuff on my Gelli plate, and I've gone in about 10 different directions, probably recorded about 20 videos. What happens is I have ideas and then one thing leads to the other, and then I follow that and that leads to something else. And anyway, I've had a blast, but now I'm trying to narrow down what is it that I'm trying to show you. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So I've always been inspired by old samplers. I'm not even sure what it is that I love. I guess it's the design and the patterns. I also love the scenes, and I like the designs they put around the edge. This one has a cool candelabra design that I'm always drawn to. And I absolutely love this one. So I think it's interesting what each of us are drawn to. It's all different. I like these kind of shapes. That's a stencil. And then I drew a bunch of like candelabra designs. This is a tissue that I really love, that design. And then I made a bunch of glue masks using my glue gun, and I love all these symbols. Yeah, so I think it's interesting what everybody likes, and it's all different. Some people like florals, and some people like stripes, and it's just no telling. But I do find it interesting. So this is what I like, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with it. All right, I'm going to do a quick review on making the mask with the glue gun. And right here I've got parchment paper. And what I'm going to do is a simple cross with the glue gun. And then I'm going to give that a few seconds. The glue is really, really hot, as you know, but I'm going to give it a few seconds, and then I'm going to fold that paper over on top of it. And then I'm going to make sure the glue's not too hot, but I'm going to lightly flatten it. I'm just, like I said, the glue is really hot, so you have to be careful. Just give it a few seconds. I'm going to flatten it, and then I'm going to take my hairdryer and put it on a cool setting and just blow that for a few seconds. And then I'm going to carefully lift that, because sometimes it wants to stick. Now I'm just kind of testing it to make sure that it's dry enough to pull up. It's a timing issue here, and there you go. And then I've got this sun that I did, but I want to add a few pieces to it. So again, I'm going to lay it on the parchment. I'm going to add a couple of pieces to it. I'm going to wait a few seconds because, again, like I said, the glue is really hot. And I'm going to fold that over, Make sure it's not too hot and flatten those couple of pieces that I just did. I'm going to hit it with the cool setting and then test it. If it's still too hot, it'll stick. See right there? It's sticking a little bit, so I'm going to rub it a little bit more. Try it again. Still sticking a little bit. See there? The glue's not that hot, but it's just kind of sticking. And finally, it comes up. And I'm just gently seeing if I can lift it. And there it is. I've shown this before, but I set up a journal with ideas, stencils, and patterns, and I added this process so that when I get ready to do glue gun masks, I can look this up and see exactly how I did them. I wanted to show you how I'm storing these. I used to put them in this container and they'd get all stuck together and I couldn't see what I had. So I had a craft storage container and some 12 by 12 craft paper, and now I just stack them on top of each other like this so I can see what I have, and it's better for traveling like this. Okay, so I want to use my Gelli prints, and my inspiration is old samplers. So I want to figure out how to put an image on without actually drawing it onto the paper. So I'm going to use a Posca and draw onto my Gelli plate. I'm just doing a simple bowl. And then I'm going to pick one of my Gelli prints and pull this onto it while it's still wet. Okay, I love that. That'll be a good way to add elements without drawing them straight onto the paper. Okay, so here's another one I did. I drew a candelabra type design. I'm going to pull it on that print. And this time I let that dry. And now I'm going to use matte medium to pull it up because I don't really want to color. I just want to pull up the image. So I'm going to use the matte medium. And since the image is dry, I'm going to put my paper down and rub it really well, and then I'm going to have to let it dry in order to pull up that image. So I'm just making sure I've got a good contact with it, and now I'm just going to let it dry. Okay, so that should be dry now. I left it for about 15 minutes, so I'm going to pull it up and see what I get. Okay, I think that turned out really cool. That'll be a nice collage element. Okay, so that is dry. Let's see what we get. All right, I absolutely love that. Okay, so like I told you, I've gone in 50 different directions this week, but I did want to show you this. I bought this little container at the dollar store, and then I got these little containers at the dollar store. And what I've been doing is mixing. So like I have this yellow. It was in a tube that the paint wouldn't come out of. So I cut the bottom out and dumped it in here. Same with this blue. And what I'm doing is mixing, not that one, that was a purple. Here it is. So I mixed those two and got this really cool green. I used that green to make these coordinating prints. And what I'm doing is taking paints that I'm trying to get rid of, and I'm mixing neutral colors. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here's an example. This is a bluish purple and an orange that I'm trying to get rid of. And I want neutral colors. So if you mix opposites on the color wheel, you should get a neutral. So let's just see what we get here. See if I even like it. Okay, so there you go. See? I love that color. So I'm going to mix up a batch of this in one of these, and then that'll use up these paints because I don't love either one of them by themselves for what I'm doing. I'm trying to get neutrals, and I want to use up old paints. So I'm going to mix this up, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so I ended up with more of a gray than a green. I had way more of the blue than I did the orange, but I like that color. And what I want to do now is do some jelly printing and make some papers that go together. And I'm going to use this gray, which I love, and I'm going to mix white with it on the jelly plate. So I'll show you how I make papers that coordinate together. I have to also say that mixing your own paints and using up old paints to get neutral colors is so much fun. I could do this all day. But what I try to do is mix up a color and then use it and see what I can get from it. The other thing is when I store these, I put a wet baby wipe in with them, and then I put the lid on, and that way they stay nice and wet, and then I try to use them up fairly quickly. Okay, so I have some copy paper here that I've cut in half. I'm going to be using that to pick this up. Right there. I have my jelly plate. I have a couple of stencils. And again, my goal is to use up this paint. I mix it up and then I add water until I get it to a good consistency. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of this to the plate. And I think I want it a little lighter, so I'm trying to use up this Simply acrylic white. So I'm going to put some of that with it. I'm going to grab my brayer. So what I'm going to do with this first is roll off my brayer with a stencil under it. And I'll get some of that pattern. It's a pretty color. Okay. Set that over there to dry. Let's grab another one. I've still got this on my brayer. This one you'll be able to see the pattern more because there's not as much paint. I love that. All right, I'm going to take this stencil and just use part of it. I'm just going to lay that down, pull some of the paint through it. And what I can do, since I have now paint on the stencil, is I've got a clean brayer. I'm going to lay this down on the paper and so when I pull this up, I have that pattern. So that all coordinates together. I love that. Let's do that again. We might be able to get a little bit more. That's a little more subtle. Okay. So we've got that pattern on there. Let's pull that up, see what we get. So we'll end up with a lot of different pieces that all coordinate together, and I don't know exactly how I'll use it, but it's nice once you mix a color to get a lot of coordinating pieces, because the chances of mixing that color exact again is very slim. All right, that's a kind of a solid piece, but I could actually layer this stencil back on top with white. We might do that later. What I'm going to do is set the stencil down, and this one that was kind of a solid gray, I'm going to pick the pattern up on top of that. Let's see what we get here. I like that. So we just keep using the same stencil and the same color with white, and we just get all kind of different effects. Okay, so here are these coordinating pieces that we just did. They would be really cool torn up and then collaged together. Okay, so like I said, the sampler, the old samplers are my inspiration for this video. So what I did is I painted some birds with that gray that I mixed. Just some real simple bird shapes. And now I'm going to use one of our papers. And it took me a little while to get these shapes to where I liked them. So I'm just going to take a little bit of paint and very quickly go over them. So that the paint is wet, because I'm sure it already dried. And then I'm going to pick this up, hopefully, and it may be an element in my sampler painting or my sampler collage, but I'll just have to see. All right, so that should be wet now, and I'm going to pick them up right. I'll pick them up like this. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, and let's pick this one up. Just pick it up here. Yeah, very, so what I ended up doing was printing some more, and then I got some white paint, and I'm just reshaping them a little bit. So I want them abstract, but yeah, I'm just kind of going around them till I get kind of a shape that I like. So I've touched all of them except this blob right here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go around it until hopefully I get more of a bird in flight, something like that. Doesn't have to be. I can always, if I cover too much up, I can take some out and reshape it. Yeah, so I like that better. Kind of bird shape. Yeah, so I just went around and just kind of touched them, and now where I'm letting it dry, and then I can just retouch it again. But I like them abstract. Just a suggestion of a bird. Yeah, just keep playing with it until his head needs to be a little smaller. Yeah, so this might end up being an element in my sampler piece, but it's fun to just add the marks using the Gelli plate, and then you can just paint around until you get what you want. I'm going to wrap this video up for this week because it's getting really long, but I wanted to show you something that I ordered from Amazon, and it's just a stamp with writing on it, and I stamped that on this. I just love any kind of writing on something. Okay, so look at all of these that I ended up with, all of these cool, like, candelabra type pieces. I love those. I want to do more of those. And I also ended up with a whole series of these really simple cups. Some of them are super vague. I love those. And I'm gonna work on my sampler this week, but this is what I have in mind. So I cut a piece of 8x10 watercolor paper, and I love the birds. I love these real subtle matching prints. Either one of these would go. I'm gonna just, I've cut them to fit. But say I did something like that, and then I like in the samplers where there's like a centerpiece, so I could put that on, and then I would like some kind of a border. I could add some trees. Yeah, when I look at the samplers, they're just so random, but this is what I'm thinking of for the start of it. So I'm going to work on that this week, and I'll try to record some of it and show you what I come up with. But that was fun. I know I went in a lot of different directions. Like I said, one thing led to the other, and I was mixing paint, and I was jelly plating, and I was doing so many things, but I had a blast, and I hope it inspires you to pick out what you love, whether it's florals or stripes or people or, oh man, there's a million things, and just play and enjoy. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you.